coming to you from his new podcasting studio with the same great organic living and gardening advice. Here he is, my dad, the Dirt Doctor, Howard Garrett.
All righty, let's get going. This is Dirt Doctor podcast 12126. I decided to use that system. That's today's date. And it'll be easy to find podcasts that maybe are covering something that's timely if you want to look for some later on. Going to do our little SPCA report first, but we didn't get the SPCA talk put up on DirtDoctor.com. The last one I got note of was Jesse at the Dallas SPCA. So check that out. Check some of the dogs that we've recommended in the past there, and we'll try to get the most current dog up for you as soon as we can. And for those of you that have another rescue organization that you think we need to know about, let me know. We'll be glad to help out with as many rescue organizations as we can. I want to start today by talking about coffee a little bit, coffee and tea. You know that I drink tea for a long time on my radio show, and I started out talking about what is the makeup of the tea that I have. This morning, it's one of my favorites. It's a tea that combines several of the herbal ingredients that I love the flavor of and will give you some medicinal help. At least I think that they will. One of the ingredients today is Juniper. It's the native eastern red cedar. And then the other ingredient is nettles. Nettles, I think, is terrific. It really has a great flavor, and it gives you some help with inflammation and things like that. It seems to be a really good tea for you to take on a regular basis and get some medicinal benefit out of it. And this morning's tea, I also put in some ginger. I sometimes use ginger powder, so it's easy if I'm in a hurry and sprinkle it in, but I also will use fresh ginger. And if it's the ginger I've grown myself, same for you. You can use it with the skin on it, just chop it up and use it in the tea, or you can use a spoon and rake the skin off. If you bought it at the store, at least clean it really well with one of the organic sprays that's good for fruits and vegetables. And then one of the simple techniques I use with both tea and coffee, I'll tell you about my coffee drinking too. I actually drink coffee first in the morning and then later do the teas. When I was doing the radio show, I would have coffee first thing in the morning, and I'd make enough tea to take to do on the show. And that's kind of the routine I use now. I make coffee and tea in a quart. I start off with a quart of water. I use either the crazy water from Mineral Wells, Texas, the mineral water, or I use the clean filtered water from our house. We have a whole house filter system, but a quart of water works really well for the coffee or the tea making. Quart of water for making, let's start with the coffee. The quart of water that I use for coffee goes in this kettle. This kettle is called the Fellow, F-E-L-L-O-W, Fellow kettle. It's stainless steel inside. You put the quart of water in it, plug it in, push the button, and in about, not very long, somewhere, I'll time it, I guess, to give you exactly what it is, but in just a few minutes, temperature inside this kettle is 212 degrees. Now that's a little bit too hot. If you pour it straight in, it's going to bubble and splash a little bit. So let it rest just a little bit. And for making the coffee, I use the Chemex pour over. I think this thing comes in several different sizes, at least 2 different sizes. This is the medium one, I think. But anyway, I let the water in the kettle be settling a little bit, and then I use the filter that is the Chemex filter. And it's pretty easy to use. You just fold it like so, and put it in here like that. Grind your coffee. I use whole bean. I grind my own coffee. I've been using one that contains some mushrooms in it, which has a good flavor and supposed to be good for you as well. Put the ground up coffee in there. Pour the now calmed down water just a little bit over the Chemex filter. Now this Chemex filter, this is what the product looks like. It gives you the illusion that it's chemical free and really clean and all that, and it may be, I'm not sure. But one thing it doesn't say on there, it doesn't say it's organic or anything that we would sometimes want to see. Plus it's white, and I wonder if it's bleached. Some of the listeners out there might know something about that. I'd like to have one that functions the same way. That would be a natural brown color or organic and work better. One of the problems I've run into in the past with making the coffee this way, I've used the organic brown filters and they've broken through. The hot water from the fellow kettle has broken through and made a mess. And so I started doubling it up, putting two together in there. And that's too much trouble. I want to find some, this is strong paper. You just put the one in there, put the coffee grounds in, pour the hot water, drains through, and it really makes a good tasting, clean coffee. Now, I do the same thing with the tea. Let me explain that for you real quick. I use a tea kettle. Now, this is not my favorite tea kettle. I couldn't find my favorite one. My favorite one was brown, and it was glazed, a real pretty shiny glazing on the outside and on the inside. This one's got a glazing on the inside and out. I think I got this at World Market, and it probably was made in China. I'm not sure. I'm still shopping around for the very best one. Some of you may have a tip for me on that. But this is a good one. If you get the kind that are too cheap or it's not glazed and finished on the inside, you might get a little bit of heavy metals from the pot into the tea, especially if it's made in China, which there's a good chance that that's the case. Anyway, back to the quart of water. The easiest way to do it is use the same fellow kettle, quart of water, hit the button, brings it to 212 degrees, piece of cake, just a few minutes. I'm usually outside starting my little exercise routine that I'll show you on the show sometime, all the joint exercises I do. I go out with my dogs and I do that while it's heating up. It's very few minutes, gets to 212 degrees. On the Juniper, I'll strip the foliage off of the stems. Stems have a little tannic taste, okay, but I usually just use the green. If you get some of the blueberries, and I got some this morning in my house by picking them up off the ground. The birds and the weather have knocked them all off the trees now. And like I mentioned a minute ago, cut up the ginger, use some ginger powder, use some of the nettles that I showed you a minute ago, put them in the teapot. And when you're up to 212 degrees, let it rest, let it settle down a little bit, pour it in there. And you can leave the almost boiling water in the tea kettle. And by the way, you can also use the Whistler, the kettle, the glass kettle called the Whistler. That's what I use too. It just takes longer for the water in the glass kettle to come to a boil. And it's just, in our house, we have gas, so you have to burn gas flames to do it. With this electric device, you don't have to do that. So either way you want to go, get a quart of water, almost boiling, over the organic ingredients. And by the way, those of you that have had any allergies to cedar, the cedar, in Texas here blows up from southern part of Texas, the hill country and everything, and give people, including me, a lot of trouble. It's called cedar fever. I haven't had any problem this year at all because I've been drinking a whole bunch of this. Related? Maybe. Tastes good anyway, especially when you add the nettles to it. So anyway, that's my coffee probably left something out there. And by the way, I'll go ahead and work that in now. I was going to do it later, but if you have any questions for me, I'm going to always address them, have a Q&A as part of the podcast. And we'll normally do it toward the end. But in this case, the questions sometimes that I talk about on the podcast will have even more detail for you on DirtDoctor.com. You can and on the socials. In fact, I did 3 social videos this morning on the Juniper and floating row cover on plants that might be susceptible to this upcoming 12 and 13 degree weather that we're going to have here in Dallas starting late Friday and into Saturday and Sunday. It doesn't look good, so you can get some tips there. But let's see what I was going to tell you. People asked me whether, one of the questions I got was whether I use the crazy water from mineral wells in my teas and coffee. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I love the mineral taste, and you're not going to get that mineral taste in the teas and coffees as much as you're just drinking it straight away. So you can do it either way. It's great water. You can use filtered water like I do, Judy and I do at home with the whole house filter system, or you can get one of the filter systems that'll sit on the counter, and then you can run a quart of water through before you do the teas and coffees. Okay. Oh, and the other question was where to get some of these ingredients like the nettles. There is a mail order company called Mountain Rose Herbs. David, who used to work with me on the radio show, told me about it, and I've been not working with them. I haven't never met them or talked to them, but I buy their products. It's called Mountain Rose Herbs. They do a real good quality. I got a great big bag of the nettles for a very low price. If you grow it yourself, that's even better. It's not a hard plant to grow, and we'll get into that at some point as well. Well, the next thing I wanted to go into with you was, and I'm going to hit the high points of it because it's 3 programs that I recommend, actually 4 if you count the tree trunk goop, but it's the basic programs that I recommend to everybody across the board. We'll spend a lot of time talking about them, especially how they relate to specific projects and specific situations, but I want to tell you in general how they work now. Again, you can get more information and detail about all these things I'm going to talk about in a couple of different ways. One is on our website, DirtDoctor.com. 2, all my books, especially the newer books like the Organic Manual, cover those latest recommendations of mine. And my online classes cover them as well, and you can see them on DirtDoctor.com also. But the first one is the basic organic program. And the way the basic organic program is very simple. Number 1, you stop using things that are destructive. And by that I mean destructive to the soil and thus to the plant roots and the plant and the air and the water. Stop using Roundup, 2,4-D, high nitrogen synthetic fertilizers, all the stuff that the other guys still recommend. We switch over to using things that build the life in the soil, that increase the health of bacteria and fungi and protozoa and beneficial nematodes and all those kind of things in the soil. And then related to that, we start getting beneficial fungus growing on the root system of the plants. That's exactly what we want to have happen. And then the next step of the basic organic program is that, backing up a second, that takes care of most diseases and insects. If you do that program, stop using the bad stuff, start using the good stuff, you have very few insect and disease problems if you go that route, if you do that. If you do have some insects pop up, which we all are going to have because we're all dealing with plants that are in stress from time to time. We've planted something that's not totally adapted to where we are. We have weather change that will cause a temporary stress. We're starting off with a situation where everything is not in balance and not healthy soil and that sort of thing. So when we do have insects and diseases pop up, we do use pest control, but we use what I call soft pest control. Soft pest control means, number one, you work with living organisms. You encourage living organisms in the garden by simply not spraying things that kill them. And that includes organic pest control products that kill. We don't recommend them as the first step. First step, we recommend everything that encourages life. And that's all the supplements that we talk about, the fertilizers that we use, the watering techniques that we use, planting techniques. Everything we do encourages life to start building the soil and beneficial insects to start flying around and crawling around and all that. And then if we have some aphids hit a plant and it looks like they're doing some damage, the first thing we do is spray, but we don't spray with anything that kills. We don't even use organic sprays that kill. First thing we do if we spray is we use repellents. And the repellents are things like garlic oil mixtures, garlic pepper tea is my favorite. Unfortunately, and maybe somebody out there listening can help us with this, unfortunately, we don't have a commercial product on the market right now of garlic pepper tea. You have to make your own. But it's easy. Formulas on my website under guides, all in capital letters, on the homepage of DirtDoctor.com. That's where you can also find these general programs that I'm talking about right now, the basic organic program included. So anyway, we spray repellents first. And if that doesn't work, if we still have some really tough insects like spotted cucumber beetles or something that's, a real tough insect to control, we then go to sprays that kill, but we use the organic ones and the ones that are the least toxic, okay? For disease control, for example, we go to hydrogen peroxide. It's perfectly acceptable, I love it, but it will kill beneficial microbes. So we use it only as the third step. By the way, back to the second step of repellents, one of the things that's really in repellents, although it kills, is cornmeal or cornmeal juice. And cornmeal is in that category of a repellent and not a killing kind of thing because it doesn't really kill anything. It simply sets up a condition of making a beneficial fungus grow called trichoderma, and that trichoderma overwhelms and controls the pathogens, things like bacteria and fungi, Rhizoctonia, Fusarium, Pythium, all those kind of things that you've maybe tried to deal with toxic chemical sprays. One of the reasons I don't recommend toxic chemicals, disease control chemicals especially, is that they don't work. And the reason they don't work is that they kill beneficials much more effectively than they kill the targeted pathogen. So it doesn't make sense to do it. Spray cornmeal juice, and later on in podcast, we'll show you how to make them and do all that kind of thing. So you have some visuals. You can see a lot of it on DirtDoctor.com and in the socials already. I'll do more for you, and we'll show you all the different ramifications, all the different techniques, different ways you can use it and all that kind of thing. We'll even show you how to use cornmeal to make a nice warm poultice and soak your feet in it so it cures toenail fungus. And yeah, it will do that. It will do that. And there's a lot of other organic techniques for pest control we'll talk about. If you ever are around any kids, including your own, that have head lice, hydrogen peroxide and or vinegar, take care of it. You don't have to use toxic chemicals to take care of those kind of things. We got all that information on the website. But anyway, that's the basic organic program. You stop doing the bad stuff, you start doing things that build the life in the soil and the health of root systems of plants and the health of all the things that are in the garden and all, and just have a big time. Use the soft pest control if you have something to take care of. Now, directly related to that is the program that I call the Detox program. And it came up because people would call me and say, okay, smart guy, how do I get rid of all the toxic chemicals that I know are on my property that I just bought because the previous owner used all the stuff that you don't recommend and we don't like either. And so I've developed the Detox program, which is pretty simple because all it is the basic organic program with a couple of additions to it. And the first addition to it is to spray something that contains a fine textured humate. Now you can buy humate, and you can buy humate at all kinds of textures and all kinds of concentrations of humic acid and all kinds of chemistry if you got it tested to see what's in it. And they'll all work to a degree. Any of those fine textured or even relatively fine textured humates will work to tie up chemicals if you spray it all over the place in your garden. I learned it from a listener. A listener called in to my show years ago and said, Howard, my husband, lady called, said, my husband can't even go out in the yard. Chem one of the chemical companies, Trugain, Chem one, I forget which one it was, doesn't matter. One of the chemical companies came to the wrong house. They'd been organic for a long time. Chemical company comes to the wrong house, sprays the place. The guy is chemically sensitive. He can't even go out in his own yard. And that's why they call me. Well, I came up with telling them that they could spray Garrett juice or liquid seaweed or the whole mixture would be best or whatever they wanted to use, and then put out some different things that would the regular basic organic program, all the amendments that I recommend, and stimulate the biological activity in the soil. Well, they called me back and they said, well, they had tried everything that I recommend for the basic organic program. They had tried compost, they had tried organic fertilizer, they had tried lava sand, they had tried azomite, they had tried dry molasses, and they had tried cornmeal. All the amendments that I recommend as part of the basic organic program. And that is recommended for the Detox program too. By the way, if you buy a property, especially your residential property, and you don't know what the previous owners did, it would be a good idea to do a Detox program because chances are pretty high that something was used other than pure organics. Now, if you met the owners, you know it organic, all you have to do is just start the organic program and you'll be off and running and fine. Okay, so that's the Detox program. It's the basic organic program with the very important addition of spraying first a liquid that contains a fine textured humate to tie up the chemicals immediately, and then the rest of the treatments, which are the ingredients of the basic organic program, will actually break those chemicals down over a period of time. Detox program. Then the sick tree treatment is the next step. And it's something we deal with. I probably use it as an answer to questions people give me about tree problems more than anything I talk about. And that's because it's the best thing to do. It works so beautifully. The sick tree treatment is the basic organic program, once again, same as the Detox program, but one greatly important addition. And that addition is to pull the soil off the base of the tree. And it doesn't matter what kind of tree it is, tree in a pot, small tree, bonsai tree, fruit tree, a shade tree, it doesn't make any difference. I see fruit trees in the ground too deep more than any. And most trees today are bought from nurseries that came from a growing operation that had them too deep. The nursery had them too deep at the nursery in the soil, and sometimes put a little more mulch on. And by the time the homeowner gets the plant or the landscape contractor and plants the tree, they end up way too deep in the ground. And the reason that's important to say is that close to 100% of the trees being planted today out there, unless they've been listening to somebody like me that's talking about this specific problem, have been planted too deeply in the ground. So the sick tree treatment's first step is to pull the soil away from the base, whether it's still in a container or it's already been planted, and a tree that's been in the ground for quite a while can even be fixed with the sick tree treatment. In fact, that's what we do a lot. The most important tree that we've done the sick tree treatment on is the national champion pecan tree over in Weatherford, Texas. You can see the whole story of it in the Fabulous Tree slideshow, which is right on the homepage of DirtDoctor.com. We removed about 5 feet of soil from one side of the tree and a foot from the other side of the tree. And we did that because I got a call from the owner. He entered the tree in a champion tree contest that I had on my radio show. He called me and had me come out and see it, and we entered it, and it won by far. It was the biggest pecan tree in the North Texas area. But he called me back a little while later after he had mowed weeds down around it and made it where you could see the base of the tree well. And he called me and he said, "Howard, there's this white stuff growing around the base of the tree. Is that anything to worry about?" And I said, "Bill, I'll be right out." I went to see him the next day. And yeah, there was fungus growing on the base of the tree. So the answer to one of the Q&As that came in, somebody asked the same question. They said they had some colorful growth at the base of their tree and wanted to know what I recommended doing. I recommend the same thing to that listener and caller as I did to the owner of the champion pecan. Pull the soil away, see what's going on. When you pull the soil away, you can see what the fungus is doing, what it's growing on. You can even pull the fungus away if you're careful not to injure the base of the tree anymore. And in this case, the pecan had a big wound and it looked like lightning had hit it decades before and busted out at the bottom, and that had gotten the problem started. We removed as much, very carefully, the completely rotted stuff as possible, sprayed the fungus with hydrogen peroxide and later cornmeal juice a couple of times actually. But the main thing that we did was that we pulled the soil off of the base of the tree. And then, of course, the owner put out all of the organic amendments around the tree, making it a complete application of the sick tree treatment. And the tree, the next growing season, came out canopy fuller. It produced pecans for the first time in a long time, and it's been great ever since. Again, you can see more details about it in my online classes and also the Fabulous Tree slideshow on the website. The next step of the organic program, the system that we use overall, the organic system, is called the sick tree treatment. And I'm sorry, it's called the tree trunk goop. Sick tree treatment we just talked about. The tree trunk goop is part of the sick tree treatment, really, if the trunk has been damaged. And if the trunk has been damaged, it usually, well, it could be by a car hitting it, it could be vandalism, it could be lawnmowers hitting the trunk of the tree. In most cases, it's animals. Squirrels, rabbits are bad on small trees, deer during rutting, the porcupines are bad, beavers are really bad. Any kind of animal that's damaging the trunk of the tree, the sick tree treatment is in order. Now you need to do the tree trunk goop. The tree trunk goop is in order. The sick tree treatment should be done too, because the sick tree treatment is the overall treatment that gets things in general better. The tree trunk goop is what we paint on the wound. It's what we cover the animal's damage with, and that shuts down the animal damage like that. They don't like it. They don't like the grittiness of the tree trunk goop, and they don't like the ingredients in it. So you stop the animal damage, and you also start the healing of the tree. The reason the animal is damaging the tree, a lot of people don't realize this, is because the tree's in stress. it's not just that an animal happened to come by and saw a tree and it looked like it would taste good. Trees in trouble, trees in stress, concentrate sugars in an attempt to help themselves get better, get over the stressful situation, whatever it is. What we do is we speed up the process. We eliminate what caused the stress in the first place. And the first step of that is part of the sick tree treatment, where you pull the soil away and you get the flare exposed, breathing air like it's supposed to do. But then we also, with damaged limbs and trunks, we paint with this tree trunk goop. I have 4 formulas that I've developed over a period of time that invented. I don't sell them or anything. You just buy the ingredients and you make it yourself. It's not sold anywhere. There's 4 of them. All of them contain some compost and some rock minerals and some organic nutrition to the trunk. And the rock minerals in them help to keep the animal away. They don't like the grittiness. Well, we got a tip from somebody who had trouble with beavers, which are really hard to control. And they said they had mixed some real coarse, sharp sand into the tree trunk goop. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. I think I'll do something even better, though, and I'll add the lava sand, because lava sand is really gritty. So we did the compost. We made a new formula of compost, fine texture compost, rock minerals, including azomite and lava sand, put a little dry molasses in it, and then the last ingredient, maybe the most important in this case, we added latex paint. And the latex paint holds it on the trunk longer, and irrigation and rain doesn't wash it away. So it really worked well. And you can choose a color that matches the trunk of the tree, and it doesn't even show up much. If you buy a color that's just slightly darker than the tree trunk, it's best, because when paint dries, it dries to a little lighter color, something that I learned as an artist. Now, the reason that this tree trunk goop is important is if you don't protect the tree trunk, it's not going to heal very fast. Disease pathogens are going to come in, and you're going to start to go downhill when you do this tree trunk goop. And it's a good idea, I think, in the 4th formula. If I don't, I need to add it to it. You need to add a little cornmeal to it too, because the cornmeal will be an antifungal, antibacterial agent, and be important for that healing. We have saved quite a few trees using the sick tree treatment and the tree trunk goop that had been totally girdled all the way around. A lot of people think once the tree's girdled, it's gone, but it will bridge and heal if you do the overall sick tree treatment and the tree trunk goop, specifically covering the wounded area. It really works great. Well, let's see. I think I got to all of our Q&As, kind of worked them in over time. We'll do more. We'll do some every week. If you've got some during the week, send it to me. Go to the new website, DirtDoctor.com. Click on or go to the page. There's a button on the homepage that says Ask Howard. Click on that, fill it out, send it to me. We'll answer that way, or you can just send me an email to info@DirtDoctor.com. Those of you that aren't on board yet, come on, you're going to love it. Water's fine. And if you are already on the organic program with us, enjoy those healthy gardens. And we'll talk about more stuff next time. We'll get into more and more detail. If you want me to cover something a little bit better than I have in the past, let me know and I'll be glad to help. Appreciate you being there. See you next time.